Hey everybody, this is the second video of the DSA learning series. This question is called to sum, and this is a fairly easy question. This is one of the first questions that you do when you start DSA, and we'll be looking into the hash map solution of this question. So let me just open my terminal, and I have the question pasted here. So let's just read the question first to try and understand the main parts of the question. And so let's start. So we've got given an array of integer numbers or nums and an integer target. Return indices of the two numbers such that they add up to the target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. So that's the question. And we've got a couple of examples. So the first example is we've got 2, 7, 11, and 15, and the target is 9. And so we could just add up 2 and 7 here to bring up 9, and the indices would be 0 and 1. And if we look at the second example, we got the target as 6, so we could add 2 and 4, and the indices would be respectively would be just 1 and 2. It's a fairly easy question. So one thing to note about this question is in some platforms, or some, if you're in a coding interview, they may just tweak this and ask you to kind of return not the indices, maybe the number itself, right? Instead of giving 0 or 1, they would ask you to return 2 and 7. And there are a couple of variations that you might want to stay aware of. So we will look at the solution. So I will open a code file, and so let me just discuss the idea before we start our implementation. So what we want to do is keep track of all the numbers we've visited in the array. So for example, in our first example, right, just take this out. And when we will loop through the array, so the first item we visit is first item is equals to 2. And what we will do is we will check if the difference of the target and the first item is available in the list. So that would be difference equals target minus the item, which is equal to 9 minus 2, which is equals to 7. Now, if this is available, we know we can find a pair, and that could be a result. So, and if it does not exist, we track or we add this to our hash map. So I'm going to say nums map of, let's say, the item equals to the idx. If the question asks us to return the idx, or else we could just say this number is available. We could just say true or true, just any value you want. So this is kind of a logic. So we will start the code implementation. So let me just pull the example. So I've got nums and target here, right? And we'll write a function. We'll just put that in a new line, right? And let's say def compute, which takes in a num array and a target integer. And what we'll do, let's say we got nums map equals an empty hash map, and we will visit each item in the array, and we will find the difference. So I'm going to say def equals target minus item. So that would be 7 in our first exam, in the first case. And we will check if this is available in our hash map. So I'm going to say if diff in the hash map, right, which means we already visited a diff in hash map. We could just return the values, right? You could say return the item and the difference, or else we'll just add this to our hash map. So we could say nums of map of the item equals true, right? Now, because in our question here, they asked us to return the index, we'll just add this to, right? So in case we don't find any answers, we'll just return an empty array, right? And because they've asked us to return the indices, we'll just keep track of that using the enumerate functions. We've got idx comma item enumerate, and we'll do that. So we get the idx. Now, if the diff, will just find the difference, that's the same. If the difference is available on the hash map, we need to return the idx, and we'll return the nums map of diff, because that's, we know it's already in the map. And here, in case that's not in the map, we'll add the idx as the value for the item. And how about we just try that? Just close that off, and we'll just call this. We'll say rv equals compute of nums comma target, and then let me just print that. I've got a vim macro that does for me. And I can say Python 3 code.py. We got 1 and 0 because it doesn't matter the way we return our result. So this works. So I could say idx and see Python 3 code.py just returns in the opposite direction. So the question says it doesn't matter, so we're good to go. Now, this is a fairly easy question. There are multiple implementations for this, but this feels like a good solution that you can, if you're sitting in an interview, you get a question like this. This is a good enough solution. Thank you for watching.